In 1182 AD, there was once a story of trial and acceptance into a foreign land. One day, as a Japanese fishing ship was out of the harbor, it was caught up in a massive storm and blown far off the shores of the island, and the ship and its remaining crew found itself stranded in the South China Sea. Days into this purgatory, they found themselves staring at an island very close to the ship that they must have drifted up to overnight. It wasn't like anything they had ever seen before. It had one large mountain and many beaches and a large forest. Unlike anything surrounding it, it was full of sunlight with no clouds above it. And due to their supplies being low, they didn't hesitate to dock up to the island, beaching their decently sized fishing vessel. As they unloaded, they brought all the supplies they could, but most of them were ruined from the storm, either being torn open or thoroughly soaked. The 7 remaining men left with only 4 knives, a bag of salt, and a bag of fish. They walked, and as the night fell, they reached the edge of a forest. They argued on whether they should go into the forest or wait till day. As Naito put it, in his first journal entry since they got to the island,
as night fell on this mysterious island, we reached the edge of the tree cover. We were underarmed and didn't have any protection from wildlife that could attack us. We had a small argument, but we ended up heading into the forest.
They entered the forest, unbeknownst to them the evil they would come face to face with. Within an hour of walking, the worst came. In Naito's second entry of his journal, he stated,
"We had only momentarily stopped to take a quick break. I was looking forward and was startled when I heard bushes rustling, the sound of wind blowing and screams, but it went as suddenly as it came, and the figure, darker than the night, with what appeared to be a lifeless body of one of my shipmates. Its limbs were thin and sharp, and its eyes dimly glowed white. It looked around 2.7 meters tall as it began to get closer to me. I turned to flee, but as I ran, I tripped over the body of another shipmate. I stood again and ran through the darkness, no sense of direction. I ran and ran, hearing screams. As a cold hand wrapped around my ankle, I looked down to see what it was. All I saw was another shipmate being pulled by one of the Oni-like creatures, blood dripping from its mouth and eyes. I screamed, and I did something that I now regret greatly. I kicked him away and sprinted for my life. I ran for what felt like forever, but I soon heard footsteps from behind me. I reached for my knife but realized that I had lost it in the frenzy. Thus I turned around, almost hoping for death. But come to see, it was another shipmate, badly wounded on his chest and legs, and who, like me, was also out of breath.
The 2 briskly walked until morning, when they finally got out of the forest, both of them scarred mentally and physically. As soon as they got out of the forest, they came across the most beautiful meadow with bugs and flowers overlooking a small stream. They felt pretty safe, so they sat down, and they took some time to account what had happened and to address wounds. However, they soon drifted off into an almost trance-like sleep. When they awoke, it must have been at least midday. Naito had found that Fu, the shipmate that was with him, was nowhere to be found, and that there was a strange red dragon-like bird asleep on his chest. Naito found the bird-like creature as a good omen, and tested his luck when he woke it up. It immediately burst up and started flying. It slowly flew away, and something was telling Naito to follow it, so he did. The bird led him through multiple meadows and across a small river, but what was on the other side he would have never believed. There were people in coolie hats, with their faces somehow completely blacked out. They were in baggy clothing, and everyone you could see, either had a staff on his back or was holding one, not to mention the circular-shaped huts that they lived in, and all of the rice farms that were surrounding the small village. The bird flew over onto one of the people and perched on his shoulder. Naito was hesitant at first, but he soon walked up. One of the people very politely greeted him, and they took care of his wounds and then they offered to accept him into their ways and their culture. He told them that he was honored, but he would want to observe them more before he joined them. So they offered him hospitality and fed him and gave him new clothes and a place to stay. Many nights later, when he was about to make his decision, he heard shouts from outside, and as he stepped out of the dimly lit hut into the brisk darkness, he saw it. The monsters. The village was under attack.